unfortunately, huge news during the break. Right as we're going to break, Nina Turner came out and gave a very short speech. It was unfortunately a concession speech. It's over. So Nina's lost in a stunning upset. Nina was the favorite. She was always the favorite, and she did. The poll was real. She did have a 35-point lead at one point, and then millions and millions and millions of dollars came in lobbyist money and establishment endorsements, and they took her out. That's what happened. And now I'm super curious to see how mainstream media is going to cover it. Very likely they will cover it as Dave Weigel predicted on this show. He's a Washington Post reporter, and they will probably say progressives lost and establishment, and the voters love the establishment. The voters chose the beloved establishment. They will of course leave out the part where they lied to the voters and did not give them the accurate information on who actually had what positions. They will leave out the Democratic Majority for Israel sent the voters mailers telling them that Nina Turner was against $15 minimum wage and against universal health care. They just flat out lied, because that's what lobbyists do, they're liars. And the press barely covered it. Barely covered it. Because they think lobbyists lying on behalf of the establishment is wonderful politics and should be celebrated, crafty. Now, of course, if Republicans do it, that's a little different. Then you should frown upon them. But when corporate Democrats do it, oh, it's wonderful, wonderful to be celebrated. So I'm sure that they're thrilled and having the time of their lives in corporate media right now, and of course among corporate politicians, they're thrilled. The threat of Nina Turner being the leader of progressives has been, in their minds, extinguished. I don't think that's the case at all. I'll talk about it a little bit more, what could happen next. But Anna, you're going to tell me something that was not going to end well.
Oh yeah, now I kind of regret even mentioning it, but okay, here's what it is. Our good friend Tom Watson, failed Democratic strategist, lover of corporate Democrats, tweets, it wasn't money, folks. It wasn't the money.
No, of course not,
okay,
Tom.
Hold on, I'm not done yet.
Of course not, no.
To be blunt, Nina Turner had more of it, including both, I don't know what IEs are.
Independent.
Independent expect, yeah. And maxed out wealthy donors. It wasn't money, this is the part that I love. That's a false narrative being peddled by the Sanders establishment.
The Sanders establishment?
The Sanders
establishment.
How's
that for a twist? That is hilarious.
Look at him trying to brand like, the Sanders establishment. That's likely to work, Tom.
That's really likely to work. Okay, now go snuggle up with whatever corporation that you're falling in love with. I have no idea about who Tom Watson gets paid by or what his motivation is. It doesn't matter. They're all the same. They're all cookie cutter. Every one of them is the same. He's just a little bit more honest and frank.
He's a consultant. I mean, he's Democratic consultants have to kiss corporate Democrat ass for their next paycheck. That's like he literally has a financial incentive in kissing corporate Democrat ass. So it is what it is. I mean, I don't let it get under my skin because he's a clown. I mean, imagine having a career that literally hinges on you sucking up to people who have no guiding principles, have no real mission as members of Congress. The only thing they care about is maintaining the status quo to keep their donors happy. Imagine being the person who goes out of his way to defend that disgusting system.
Yep, that's Tom Watson. And by the way, like I said, it's a lot of them. It's most of them.
Yeah.
He's just the one taking a victory lap here on behalf of corruption. And so no, look, but think about it. First of all, I'm not that angry. I'm totally unsurprised by that. But they're trying to frame progressives now as the Sanders establishment. Why? Because people hate the establishment, so they're trying to rebrand themselves. Like people like our ideas, so they want to pretend that they have our ideas. That's why they run ads saying that Nina Turner's against minimum wage increase and against universal health care because they know how popular we are. And now they know how unpopular they are, so he's trying to rebrand us as the establishment as opposed to them.
Yeah.
Right. And by the way, as long as the establishment media is in charge, it'll work because the establishment media will go, oh yeah, okay, of course, right. Oh, Bernie Sanders and Nina Turner are the establishment. Wink. Oh yeah, the dark money was more in favor of Nina Turner. Are you shitting me? Is that a real conversation? That's insane, right? Look, I'll tell you what. If anything, I regret that we did not raise more money for Nina Turner. I wish we'd raised $10 million and beat the living crap out of them at their own game, right? And just, but at the end of the day, guys, this is what I learned in my race, and that's why I thought the race was so important. And I think really what happened here to Nina as well is that you just, and Nina, but to be fair, by the way, and accurate, Nina did have a lot of money. So they spent a ton of money against her, but Nina also had a lot of money because of you guys and everybody else that chipped in, that cared about her. She didn't have it from big wealthy benefactors who were looking for favors. She had it from average Americans. But you just can't have enough money to compete with media. So why? Just think about why. Okay, we've gone over this once before, but a lot of you might not have seen it, and it's very relevant to Nina's race. So when they go into the voting booth, they do not know about politics as much as you do or I do, right? Every voter cares about politics to some degree because they showed up to vote, but it's not their life. They don't know all the details. Everybody makes the classic mistake, assuming that their perspective is everybody's perspective. So since if you're a Young Turks member, you probably know a lot about politics. So you think, oh, those voters probably know a lot, right? No, most voters know very, very little when they walk into the voting booth. And here, I can prove it to you really easy. When you're voting in a local race, and some of you might be really gung-ho about local races and you might know them, but most of you, like me, honestly, when I go in to look at local races, I'm like, I don't know.
No, we got to get more involved in local races, man.
Okay, I know, but that's another topic for another day. My point in this case is, okay, which councilman should I vote for? And I spend my life studying the councilman, right? So how do I pick? Well, one of them has a D, the other one has an R. It's over. I'm voting for the D, right?
Right.
Okay. And if I know that somebody's the progressive in the race, I'm going to vote for the progressive. That's why the brand of Justice Democrats is so important, because you can give that brand to other people, and then people go, oh, okay. If I'm in a district that's progressive, I know that that's the progressive. In this case, she wasn't. She was in a more Biden-leaning district. Okay. But so, and the people get an impression of you. Now this was a race that was very well publicized, right? So they might have already had an impression of Nina Turner, and they, over the last month, got an impression of Shontel Brown. No one knew her before, right? And so one thing that happened was, and what I loved about the beginning of the race and what changed a massive sea change in dynamic was, before it was Nina Turner versus the Blob, and the Blob has a 0% chance of winning because people don't know whether to vote for Jeff or Shontel or Brown or Smith, right? But when everybody else got eliminated through all the lobbyists picking Shontel Brown, then she got tremendous publicity. And then with Hillary Clinton going Shontel Brown and Jim Clyburn going Shontel Brown, then everybody got to know her name. And when they went into the voting booth, maybe they heard about it. So by the way, a lot of them didn't hear about Hillary's endorsement. A lot of them didn't hear about Clyburn's endorsement. Because remember, they only get a sliver of information. Everybody's different and they all have different slivers, right? So they might have heard about Clyburn and thought, oh, okay, then I guess I'm for Shontel Brown. They might have heard about Marcia Fudge's aunt or dog that was supporting Shontel Brown, and they might have thought, oh, okay, I like Marcia Fudge. So that helps Shontel's brand. Every time they saw in the media that, and by the way, the ads help your brand, right? You could have positive ads, you could have negative ads. And so that's why they spent so much money on negative ads against Nina, because they were trying to tear down her brand, that when the person walked into the voting booth, they saw Nina Turner and thought, no, I don't want her. She's against minimum wage. She's against universal health care. She hates Democrats. No, I'm a Democrat, I'm gonna vote for Shontel Brown, okay? So that's how they do it. But of all of the different slivers, the endorsements, the ads, and all the different factors that affect all the different voters, the number one factor by a landslide is media, because that is the thing that people consume most, and that reaches the most amount of people. So when you see on local news, when you see on cable, when you see in the Washington Post, all of these positive things about one candidate and negative things about another candidate, it's good night, Irene. We don't stand a chance, okay? And so, for example, Shontel Brown has that ethics probe that we talked about. In a just world, she might literally be arrested after the election. She funneled tens of millions of dollars to her partner / lover, right? And that is totally illegal.
Yeah, dude, I mean, it's oh God, thank you for bringing that up. Because I mean, we should have talked about that more throughout the night, but it's just so incredibly frustrating that she was doing self-dealing. She's not married to the guy, but she's living with the guy, and she's like approving insanely expensive government contracts to him. It's self-dealing. It's like the most corrupt thing you could do. I mean, it's the same thing that Dianne Feinstein did with her husband and the various real estate deals that she helped him out with.
And how often have you heard in the mainstream media about Dianne Feinstein's husband? If you're a progressive, you might have heard it from us, or you might have researched and found an article from 1993 or something along those lines, right? But overall, they're never discussed in the context of Feinstein, let alone Pelosi's husband, right? Let alone Joe Manchin's daughter, let alone, right? We can go on and on and on, right? And so if the framing of this race was about Shontel Brown's corruption, when they went into the voting booth, they would have had a negative brand associated with Shontel Brown.
Right, of course.
And so that is why the media actually is, so Anna says, Cenk, your ideology, or we talked about it earlier today, ideology is not quite the right word, but it's about money and politics, that's your frame, right? And I explained why.
The framework that you see everything, basically, yeah.
And I see it through that framework because it appears to be determinative. It's certainly on legislative issues it's determinative, and as I told you earlier in the program, 95% of the time on electoral issues is determinative, right? But the only thing that could beat money is media, but the money makes all the difference because the media is stagnant. It doesn't move. The media is always in favor of corporate politicians. My whole life. But by the way, before, like I happened to come to the country in 1978, and the Supreme Court happened to end our democracy in 1978 through their Bellotti decision and the earlier Buckley decision in '76. That's where they said corporations could spend unlimited money on politicians, and you'll see in my book, Justice is Coming, that that's where the entire Democratic Party turned. They all, and there's quotes. Okay, we have to take corporate money. We will take corporate money. Now make sure you don't represent the average worker because it'll piss off our corporate donors. I mean, you see it in live through the quotes, through the years, exactly how they turn. So as it turned out, there was democracy in America right before I came. Not related to me. I was 8 years old. Okay, and so back then we had a really interesting press. We had an aggressive press that would take on politicians, and that's where the sayings came from. The job of the press is to comfort the afflicted and afflict the comfortable, right? And that hasn't happened in 40 some odd years.
You mean when the fairness doctrine ended?
No, let's not get into it.
I'm just saying.
Okay, no, anyway.
Yeah.
That's a long, I think slightly uninteresting conversation. But in terms of corporate media, they never move. They're always in favor of the corporate candidate.
Yeah, they're the corporate media, Cenk.
Yeah. No, my point is that that is the hill we have to climb over. And the reason money in politics affects elections more is because the media will not move. That's a given. That's a constant in the formula, right? Now, on the other hand, if we could move the media, that would be even more powerful than money in politics. Now, what I've tried, and basically I'll tell you tonight, I'm officially giving up on it. I mean, I was headed in that direction for sure anyway, but we've had a lot of conversations off air about this. And I would call it the media multiplier effect. And I was not wrong to concentrate on it. I thought it was super important for progressives and for us to break through in mainstream media, because media was had such an overwhelming effect on politics. And without the media multiplier effect for our branding, for our framing, for our message, we had no chance. Unfortunately, I was right about that. But now I'm at a point where I realize, no, there's no way in the world that the media can be moved. It doesn't matter how many, like I remember Alexandra Rojas, the executive director of Just Democrats, and she got a CNN deal at one point, so they were having her on more, right? And I was like, okay, here we go, all right. And Nina Turner used to be on CNN, if you remember, right? I'm like, Nina's on and Rojas is on, and then they would have us, maybe we're gonna break through like we've always been hoping for, right? But once Bernie lost the primary, they were done with all of us. They cut us all off and never asked any of us back on, because they would only do it to kiss ass of the powerful if Bernie had become president. But they have no interest in actual dialogue or policy or being fair or objective. That's preposterous. So now that I've given up on moving the mainstream media, the better strategy is to just defeat them. And so we have to grow progressive media. And if you think, well, hey guys, that seems impossible, right? They're a behemoth, they're gigantic. TYT Network is top 10 in every social media platform. Oh, not every, but nearly every social media platform, right? Like for example, on Facebook, I've told you this before, we're number 2, and CNN I think is number 4, ABC I think is number 5, Fox News is number 3, right? So, well now what's the future? That stupid old box in the corner of your living room that you're now using Netflix and Disney Plus and YouTube for, but not old TV, right? Those dinosaurs left on TV, yes, they're still ascendant today at this moment, right? But are they gonna rule the future? Here, we're in the post game. Fuck no, they're not, okay? They're on borrowed time. And so we're gonna win on social media, and social media is the future. That's the only thing that's gonna be left. And we're gonna win and win and win. And we added Rashad Richey, we added David Schuster, we're gonna add more. And the more you guys watch and share and become members, and then we're gonna build a change machine. And they're gonna say, well, they're gonna be skeptical. I know, everybody's always skeptical. And then we do it, and then that'll work. And then the other side will start complaining. Oh, that's not fair. The media is too progressive. We can't win if the media is too progressive. And at that point, you and I will say together, goddamn right you can't win. So that's the future. Our job together is to get there. Because here we go again. We thought it was the future today and tonight, and it turns out it wasn't. Thanks for watching The Young Turks, really appreciate it. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. You'll get to interact with us more. There's live chat emojis, badges. You've got emojis of me, Anna, John, JR. So those are super fun. But you also get playback of our exclusive member-only shows and specials right after they air. So all of that, all you gotta do is click that join button right underneath the video. Thank you.